We got discharged on a Thursday, which felt wrong in a way I can't explain without sounding superstitious. Thursdays are for payroll, trash day, and pretending you'll answer old emails. Not for walking out of pediatric oncology with your son and a plastic bag full of meds and paperwork that suddenly matters more than anything you own. My son Noah was 9. He had his backpack on one shoulder, the blue one with the cracked zipper pull, and his hoodie sleeves pulled over his hands. He was medically cleared to travel after 11 months of treatment in Houston, and he looked better than he had in a long time. Still thin, still pale, but upright, alert, watching me. Kids watch your face after hospitals. They watch like your expression is the forecast. You texted her? He asked when we got into the rideshare to the airport hotel. I did. What did you say? I showed him the screen, because I've always tried not to do fake reassurance with him. Landing at 10:20, gate 8. That's clear, he said. Very clear. She'll be there? Yeah, I said. I said it because I believed it. Or maybe because I needed him to believe it. My fiancée Melissa and I had been together 3 years, engaged for 8 months. She had a daughter, Ava, who was 14, and in private school, I worked as an operations manager for a plumbing supply company in Tulsa. Melissa did medical billing from home. We lived separately during Noah's treatment because I had taken unpaid leave and moved with him to Texas for the long stretch. Melissa stayed back in Oklahoma with Ava, her job, the house she rented, and all the normal life stuff people post about like it means anything. For 11 months, I sent money. Rent help, groceries, car payment once, school stuff, emergency stuff. Just until you're back, that had become her favorite phrase. At 9:54 p.m., the plane boarded. At 10:18 p.m., we landed. At 10:20 p.m., while other people stood up too early and reached for bags that were still above somebody else's head, I sent the text again. Landed. Gate 8. No response. At 10:27, we were in the terminal. At 10:34, we were at baggage claim. At 10:41, Noah sat on our big suitcase and held his little duffel between his knees. At 10:46, he asked, "Did she say anything?" No. At 10:49, my phone buzzed. I looked down already smiling because that's how stupid hope works. It was Melissa. Not where are you? Not parking was insane. Not be there in 5. Just this, still waiting on the $4,800 for my daughter's tuition. I read it twice because my brain rejected it the first time. Noah watched my face. What? Nothing, I said too fast. He kept looking. I swallowed and read it again, still waiting on the $4,800 for my daughter's tuition. Not hello, not welcome home, not how's Noah, not did you make it, just an invoice in human form. My mouth went dry so fast my tongue felt heavy. My hands went cold. My brain started counting automatically the way it does when something is wrong. 1 child on a suitcase, 2 carry-ons, 1 medication cooler, 3 unread discharge emails, 0 replies from my fiancé until money came up. Noah said quietly, "She's not coming, is she?" I looked at him. He had that flat, careful expression sick kids get around adults. Not dramatic, not crying, just already managing my reaction for me. "I don't know," I said. That was the most honest thing I had. At 11:17, the baggage carousel stopped. At 11:22, the airport got quieter. At 11:31, an SUV pulled up at curbside outside arrivals. Dark gray Chevy Tahoe. Older model. I knew it before I saw the driver. And the second I did, something in my chest shifted. It wasn't Melissa. It was my older sister Dana. She got out, took one look at my face, then at Noah, then at the luggage cart. "What happened?" she asked. I held up my phone. She read the text. Her entire face changed. Not surprise. Recognition. The kind that told me this started before I even landed. I didn't scream. I didn't call Melissa. I put Noah in the car, loaded the bags, and said, "Tell me everything." Dana drove because she said my hands looked bad, and she wasn't wrong. They were shaking on and off. Not enough to lose control, but enough to notice. Noah fell asleep in the back within 15 minutes, cheek against the window, rabbiting one sleeve in his fingers the way he did when he was exhausted, and trying not to show it. Dana kept her eyes on the road. "Start at the beginning," I said. She exhaled. "Your beginning or hers?" That tells me enough already. I was 37, born and raised outside Tulsa, widowed at 33, and for a long time I thought surviving one terrible thing made you harder to fool. It doesn't. Sometimes it just makes you grateful for affection, and gratitude can make you stupid. Melissa was 35. Pretty, polished, good in her room, the kind of woman who remembered birthdays and sent links to things she thought would help. She came into our lives 2 years after my wife Erin died. Noah liked her. Ava was polite in a teenager way, meaning she tolerated oxygen if it didn't inconvenience her. In the beginning, Melissa was solid. When Noah had scans, she checked in. When I had a panic spiral after a bad appointment, she sat on my porch with takeout. When I said I couldn't do another person who played games, she touched my wrist and said, "I'm too old for games." That line aged badly. Dana said it changed when the treatment went long. That was true. At first, Melissa had told everyone, "Christopher needs to focus on his son. We'll make this work." Then it became, "I'm basically doing everything here." Then, Ava's life can't stop because Noah is sick. Then, private school doesn't pause for personal hardship. That phrase showed up a lot. Personal hardship, like cancer, was a scheduling issue. The first time I felt something twist was month 3. Melissa called while I was standing in line at hospital pharmacy. "Did you send the extra 600? For what?" "Ava's spring trip deposit. I already sent money this week." "You did, for bills. This is separate." "Melissa, I'm at the hospital, and I'm here handling real life." I remember staring at the linoleum while a toddler cried 3 feet away and thinking, she said real life like this wasn't it. I sent the money anyway. Second incident was month 5. Noah had a fever scare. We were back in the ER. I texted Melissa that I might not be reachable for a few hours. She replied 40 minutes later. "Okay. Also, landlord says if I'm covering your half again next month, I need clarity on when this ends." When this ends. Not treatment, not the hospital stay, not the scare. This. I read it in a plastic chair while Noah slept against my side with an IV taped to his hand. I still made excuses for her. Stress, distance, single parenting her own child, money pressure. People can be selfish when they're scared. That's what I told myself. Third incident was month 8, and that one should have ended it. Dana had come to Houston for a weekend so I could shower longer than 4 minutes and sleep without one eye open. Melissa FaceTimed. Noah was on the couch under a blanket, bald head against the pillow, watching some dumb baking show. Melissa smiled at him first. "Hey, buddy." Then to me, "Can you call me after?" I did. She said Ava heard from someone at church that Noah's fundraiser covered more than expected. I was silent for a second. That fundraiser was for travel, lodging, meds, and lost wages. Right? But if there's any left, no. I didn't even let her finish. She laughed a little. "Christopher, I'm not saying take from Noah. I'm saying family helps family." There it was. Her favorite language. Smooth words for ugly ideas. Family helps. Be flexible. Don't make it weird. We're building a life together. All those phrases meant the same thing. My money was communal, my son's needs were negotiable, and her daughter's comforts came first. I thought it was temporary. It wasn't. The worst part wasn't even Melissa. It was what Noah learned. He learned to go quiet when my phone rang. He learned to ask, "Is it about money?" He learned to say, "You can take my tablet back if it helps." One night in Houston, we were splitting a grilled cheese in the hospital cafeteria because he'd finally wanted real food, and he asked, "When we go home, can we not tell Melissa how much the hotel refund was?" I just stared at him. He shrugged like he was talking about weather, so she doesn't get upset. That was the moment I understood my kid had started shrinking himself to protect me from my relationship. Dana said from the driver's seat, "I wanted to tell you sooner." Sooner about what? "She's been telling people you owed her that tuition." I turned to her. "What people?" "Mom, me, Aunt Karen. Probably more. She said Ava stayed in school because she covered things while you were away." "That's not true." "I know." I leaned back and closed my eyes for 1 second. I had paid rent help for 11 months. Utilities, 5 times. Groceries almost weekly. Ava's laptop repair. Dance fees once. Her orthodontist payment once, which I regretted immediately. I had Venmo records, bank transfers, screenshots, everything. Because living in hospitals teaches you paperwork or it kills you. "You have the receipts?" Dana asked. "Every single one." "Good," she said. "You're going to need them." "Why?" She tightened her grip on the wheel. "Because Melissa wasn't alone tonight." I turned slowly. "Who?" Dana said her ex-husband was at her house when I drove by. That landed hard. Ava's father, Brent, had been barely around according to Melissa. Unreliable according to Melissa. Financially useless according to Melissa. "Why were you driving by her house?" "Because she called me at 8:40 asking if I thought you'd have the tuition money when you landed." I felt something go cold behind my ribs. And I said that was a disgusting question. She glanced at me. Then she said, "Well, Christopher needs to understand priorities now that treatment is basically over." Basically over. My son asleep in the back seat with nausea meds in a cooler. Basically over. That's when I stopped making excuses for her and started lining up facts. Escalation Dana didn't take us to my place first. She took us to hers. That told me how bad she thought this was. Her husband Mark opened the front door in sweatpants at 12:18 a.m., took one look at the luggage, then hugged Noah without waking him. That alone almost broke me. Just a normal, decent reaction. A child comes home from treatment, you say welcome home, you don't send an invoice. We got Noah into the guest room. He woke up long enough to mumble, "Did Melissa come?" I said no. He nodded once, too tired to be surprised. Okay. That hurt worse than tears would have. At 12:46 a.m., Dana put a mug of coffee in front of me and said, "Now check your phone." There were texts. "Melissa, you ignoring me isn't helping. I've covered things for months. Ava's deadline was today. You knew that. This is exactly why I said we needed financial clarity before you came back. No welcome home, no ask about Noah. Still no acknowledgement that we had been standing in an airport." I typed once, deleted it. Then I sent, "Did you ever plan to pick us up?" She replied in under 10 seconds, not without resolving the tuition issue. I stared at the screen. Dana read over my shoulder and said, "Save that." I screenshotted it. Then another message came. "Brent says you've been using Noah to avoid adult responsibilities." I actually laughed once, not because it was funny, because it was so filthy it didn't fit in my head at first. There it was. Wave 2. Narrative pressure. Reputation. They were building a version where I was unstable, irresponsible, hiding behind my sick kid, and somehow in debt to Melissa for the privilege. I texted back, "Do not mention my son that way again." Melissa, "Then stop acting like only your child matters." I put the phone face down. Dana said, "Call her?" "No. Document." By 1:15 a.m., I had made a folder in my phone notes and emailed myself backups. Transfers, dates, screenshots, hospital discharge paperwork, flight itinerary, her text demanding $4,800, her admission that she refused to pick us up without payment. Then Dana said the sentence that changed the whole night, "There's more." I looked up. She posted. Posted what? Dana slid her phone across the table. Melissa had put up a Facebook status 23 minutes earlier. No names. Of course, just a vague martyr post. Some women are tired of carrying everything while men play hero in public and leave girls behind in private. Comments already rolling in. "You're so strong. People don't know what you've done. Protect your daughter." I felt my jaw lock. Then Dana opened one more screenshot. A comment from Brent. "Some men use sympathy as currency. Glad the truth is coming out." I said, "He was at her house." Yep. I checked our old text thread for anything about tuition. There was plenty. Her. "Ava's school isn't optional." Her. "If you can spend on hotels in Houston, you can support this family." Me. "Hotels in Houston are where Noah gets treated." Her. "Everything is always about Noah." There it was in writing from 2 months earlier. I had ignored the size of it then because we were waiting on scan results, and I did not have room for one more disaster. Now I did. At 1:42 a.m., Melissa called. I let it ring. Again. 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 Dana said, "Put it on speaker if you answer." I answered on the 5th call. "Christopher? Yeah. Why are you doing this?" That line got me, not because it was cruel, because it was lazy. Doing what? Turning this into a drama situation. You could have paid it. You chose not to. I landed with my son after 11 months of treatment. You left us at the airport. I set a boundary. "No," I said. "You set a ransom." Silence. Then she went colder. "You have no idea what I've done for you. I have bank records of what I've done for you." Wow. Where were you tonight? That is not your concern. Were you with Brent? Don't do this. Were you? She snapped. At least Brent shows up for his daughter. My whole body went still. There are sentences that end relationships before the call is over. That was one. I said, very evenly, "You are done speaking to me tonight." Then I hung up. At 2:03 a.m., she started with email. Subject line, financial obligations. Like we were in arbitration. In the email, she claimed she had fronted household costs while I was away, that I had verbally committed to Ava's tuition payment, and that my avoidance pattern was affecting both children. Both children. She kept trying to merge her daughter's school bill with my son's medical crisis as if they were competing subscriptions. I forwarded the email to myself and to Dana. Then I texted one concrete question. "Return every item of mine from your house by Sunday 5 p.m. Include my garage opener, spare key, and Noah's backpack you said was still there. Do not contact my son." She replied, "Not until we settle what you owe." There it was. Property leverage, money leverage, access leverage. I asked one more. "Do you have any of Noah's medical paperwork or personal items?" She wrote, "Maybe. You left a lot behind when you ran to Texas." I screenshotted that too. That's when I stopped arguing and started building the exit. At 2:37 a.m., Mark said, "You need a witness tomorrow." I said, "It is tomorrow." He said, "Exactly." So at 8:15 a.m., after 3 hours of broken sleep and a check-in with Noah's Tulsa specialist's office, I drove with Dana and Mark to Melissa's rental house. Noah stayed with Dana's teenage son and slept till almost 10. I didn't warn Melissa we were coming. I was done giving her time to rearrange facts. Mark had his phone recording in his shirt pocket. Dana had copies of my transfer history in a folder. Because my sister is the kind of person who gets meaner the calmer she sounds. Melissa opened the door in leggings and a soft beige sweater like she was hosting brunch. Instead of a moral collapse, Brent was behind her in the kitchen. Seeing him there felt grossly confirming. Melissa folded her arms. "You brought an audience?" I said, "I brought witnesses." Her eyes flicked to the folder in Dana's hand. I kept it simple. My key. She didn't move. My garage opener. Nothing. Noah's backpack and medications that were delivered here in March. Brent stepped forward like this involved him. "You're being aggressive." I looked directly at him. "You don't live in this conversation." He opened his mouth again. Dana cut in. "Actually, since you publicly commented on a defaming post last night, you may want to stay quiet." That shut him up for one useful second. Melissa tried her reasonable voice. "Christopher, nobody is trying to hurt you. We need accountability." I said, "You extorted an airport pickup for money." "That's absurd." Dana opened the folder and read aloud. "Not without resolving the tuition issue." Melissa went pale around the mouth. Then Dana read the other one. "Not until we settle what you owe." Melissa said, "Those are out of context." I almost smiled. That phrase should be embroidered on manipulative people. I held out my hand. "My key." She didn't hand it over. Instead, she said, "You owe Ava stability." I said, "I owe my son safety." That was the line. Clean. In front of witnesses. No speech. Brent muttered, "Jesus." Mark finally spoke. "We're not leaving without his property." Melissa's mask slipped then. Not full rage. Worse. Contempt. "You used Noah as an excuse for a year," she said. "Everyone sees it now." The porch went quiet. I heard my own pulse in my ears, but my voice came out level. "My child had cancer." She crossed her arms tighter. "And somehow that always paid your side of things." Dana stepped forward so fast I put a hand out without thinking. "Say that again," she said. Melissa didn't. Because there it was. Witnesses. Air. Daylight. Facts with nowhere to hide. Mark said, "Christopher, call the police for property retrieval." So I did. Not because I thought this was a huge criminal event, because official systems matter when liars start freelancing. A patrol officer came out at 9:02, took statements, looked at the texts, looked at Melissa, looked at me, looked at Brent, who suddenly found the driveway fascinating. The officer said, "Ma'am, if these items are his, return them." Melissa tried once more. "There's a financial dispute." The officer said, "That is separate." Best sentence anybody had said in 12 hours. She brought out a plastic bin. My garage opener, my spare key, a framed photo of me and Noah from before treatment, Noah's old backpack, a folder with 2 of his appointment summaries, and, weirdly, the engagement photo sample the photographer had mailed us. I took all of it. Then I said, in front of the officer, Dana, Mark, Melissa, and Brent, "There will be no wedding. Do not contact my son again. Any future contact goes through email only." Melissa's face changed like I had slapped her, which I hadn't. Boundaries feel violent to people who benefited from none. By noon, I had emailed the venue and photographer. By 1 p.m., I had removed her from every shared login, storage plan, and calendar. By 1:30, I called the jeweler about the ring appraisal because I bought it and I was done thinking sentimentally. At 3:12 p.m., Melissa posted again, this time less vague. Enough names that Dana's lawyer friend told me to preserve everything. By 4 p.m., I had a consultation booked for Monday. By 4:07, I sent one group message to my family and closest friends. The engagement is over. Melissa refused to pick Noah and me up from the airport unless I paid $4,800 for Ava's tuition. I have documentation. Please do not involve Noah in any discussion of this. One sentence of reality. That was all. The consequence was immediate. Calls, texts, voicemails. Her mother, a cousin of hers I barely knew. A church friend. Then Brent. Then Melissa again and again and again. By 4 a.m. the next night, my phone showed 48 missed calls. The weirdest part of ending something ugly is how normal the next small good thing looks. 2 days later, Noah sat at Dana's kitchen table eating cinnamon toast and arguing with my nephew about whether a tomato is a fruit in real life or just an annoying fax. He laughed with his whole face for the first time in weeks. I almost missed it because I was used to scanning for problems. A week later, we were back in my house. Quiet little rental. 1 bathroom. Leaky fence gate. The place looked exactly like it had when I left for Houston, except for the dust and the stack of mail and the fact that I could breathe in it again. Noah went room to room checking things. My blanket's still here. Yeah, my dinosaur mug. Yep, my charger. In the drawer. He nodded each time like he was rebuilding the map of his own life. Then he asked, "Are we ever seeing Melissa again?" No. Okay, that was it. Kids don't always need the long version, they need the true version. Melissa tried one last tactic 10 days later. A package on the porch, no return address, inside was a hoodie I'd left at her place, the engagement photo sample, and a handwritten note. I hope after you cool down you'll remember what we meant to each other. Ava is heartbroken. Families work through hard seasons. No apology, no mention of the airport, no mention of the tuition demand, no mention of my son. Just a Hallmark version of reality with all the criminally selfish parts cropped out. I took a photo of the note, added it to the folder, and replied by email, "Do not send gifts, notes, or messages to my home. This is not a misunderstanding. This is over." She answered once more, "You're destroying something good because you're angry." I wrote back, "No, I'm ending something harmful because I'm clear." Then I blocked her everywhere except the one email folder I kept for records. Life got smaller after that, and smaller was better. Noah's follow-up scans stayed on the calendar. I went back to work part-time, then full-time. Dana kept showing up with groceries I didn't ask for, and batteries I apparently always needed. Mark fixed my fence gate. My neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, dropped off soup and said, "I don't know the whole story, but you look less tired," which was maybe the nicest accurate thing anyone said to me all month. There were hard moments. Bills, the legal consult. Explaining to people that no, I did not lose a fiancé, I left one. Hearing Noah get quiet when a beige SUV slowed near the curb one afternoon. That one made me kneel in the driveway and say, "You don't have to worry about surprise visits. I won't allow that." He nodded and went back to chalking the sidewalk. A month after we got home, he had a school reentry meeting. Near the end, the counselor asked if there was anything he wanted teachers to know. He looked down at his hands and said, "I don't like it when adults act nice and mean at the same time." Nobody in that room had a better summary than that, so that's the truth. I came home from 11 months of my son's treatment, expecting my fiancé at gate 8. Instead, I got a tuition demand, an empty curb, a sister with a witness face, and 48 missed calls after the people who were caught lying realized I was done participating. The person in that SUV changed everything, because she gave me the one thing manipulative people hate most: another adult in the room who could see it clearly. I used to think love meant endurance. Now I think love is simpler than that. Love picks up the phone. Love comes to the airport. Love does not send you a bill while your child is holding a discharge folder. Melissa lost access to me because she treated access like leverage. That boundary is still in place. Access to me is not a family right. And the moral, at least for me, is simple. The moment someone makes your child's pain compete with their convenience, believe them the first time. Boundaries are not revenge. They are how you stop the damage from becoming your normal.